what allowed the group to continue in that area was actually the invention of desktop publishing software.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that Doug Wilson explained, when we're chatting to him about this, was that he realized that technological advances meant that anyone in any small town in North America had at their fingertips the ability to create texts and even eventually to circulate texts, that they didn't need to be based in New York or Manhattan or wherever it may be. And of course, then, once they established Canon Press, which was the publishing arm of the Christchurch community, that I think was what allowed them to begin really to push forward the circulation of some of their ideas. Now, I mentioned earlier on at the very start of the conversation, Credenda Agenda in the 1990s. Like lots of other people who like free things, I subscribed to that because it was completely free. Yeah. And they were sending out copies all over the world. They're sending one to me, in Scotland, in Northern Ireland. I was getting these copies of this. And in fact, in the late 1990s, Credenda Agenda had 22,000 subscribers. Now, that's a lot of magazines to get published and circulated. Yeah, that costs a lot. Mm-hmm. And, it was, I suppose, the strategic decision to remain in Moscow, to build a community in a small town where they really did begin to make a bit of an impact in the local area. It was that decision, I think, which was made possible by desktop publishing software and other technological achievements that allowed the group to grow as it did.
No, that's exactly, you already hit on something that I was thoroughly interested to follow up in after reading the book. And it is the self-consciousness or the strategic, thinking involved. And I wondered how self-conscious they were in terms of their marketing and specifically their publishing efforts. Because what we find in this broad community of Christian Reconstruction, there's so many prolific authors, like seriously prolific authors, anywhere from Rushdoony, and just his reading and writing habits just make my head hurt. I wish I could think and write as much as he does. Or Gary North, for example, but they read and write so much. I was curious. Nowadays you look back and you wonder, well, this is a content marketing strategy, or are they self-aware of doing these like influencer marketing, or are they just pursuing their passion? Or perhaps is it just a combination of the two, whether they're intelligent and wise about what they're doing, but at the same time they're so prolific just because they're thinking and writing about what they're passionate about?
Yeah. Interesting question, Camden, really interesting. I mean, I think you're right. They are as a group smart people, or certainly they are led by smart people, intelligent people who know how to communicate well, people who know when controversy is actually a useful tool, people who are not scared of controversy, and so on. Now, I mean, I think when you look back to the 1990s and Credenda Agenda, it has the feel of a Calvinist version of Private Eye, which is a satirical magazine in the UK. There'll be, I don't know what the equivalent is in the US, but it's got that kind of tongue-in-cheek witticism. Yeah. It's cheeky. It's a little bit avant-garde, but it's also thoughtful and reflective. And it's really arguing for a preterist interpretation of Revelation in a regular column. So it's doing lots of different things. And, if you start reading some of the letters pages, they're kind of hilarious. There's Anabaptists writing in. There's people who are Eastern Orthodox writing in. One of my favourite letters, I think, comes from a Saturday Sabbath Baptist. It's like a collection of the weird and wonderful, which, maybe makes me realise why I felt I was reading something that was kind of stimulating and bizarre sometimes, but also, interesting.
Sure.
In fun ways. But so, all of this is happening. But fast forward to 2020, 25 years later, and you've got, if you visit Doug Wilson's website, it's very, very knowing. I think it's self-conscious. And I think that there's a branding exercise going on there. I think Doug Wilson recognizes that in some ways the brand has been built around him. And there's, bear in mind now that that community is full of incredibly creative people, artists, filmmakers, musicians, and when it comes to making a good quality product, they really know how to do it. And, if you look at the Amazon Prime talk show that Doug Wilson hosts at the moment, called Man Rampant. Mm-hmm. I've only watched a couple of episodes, but, again, it's built around him and a small number of other leaders of that community. But it's also very professional in its production, in the way it's presented and so on. But it's not. It doesn't take a softly approach. And some of the, I think that the kind of humour that marked some of the earlier literary productions in this community, that seems to have gone. It's much more earnest. It's much more, I think, in your face. It's much more direct. And I think that probably in some respects reflects both the maturing of this community, as well as as well as their sense of the increasingly dangerous situation in which they find themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's become a lot more urgent, a lot more direct, but at the same time, along the way they have, as you say, they have moved from writing with Canon Press to writing with major imprints.
Right.
And, they've collected co-authors of the likes of Christopher Hitchens. This is not an obscure group. That it might be small in number, but it really has put a huge amount of effort into extensive cultural reach, which is pulling people. It's generating an international audience much more effectively than sending out 22,000 copies of a physical magazine to people like me who are, who'd refuse to pay for it but are happy to get something for free. Sure. So this is something which is commodified, if I can use a Marxist term on Christ the Centre.
Sure.
So there's a real commodification of this theology. There's a I think there are marketing strategies. It's very savvy, it's very knowing, it's very intelligent, and as I say, the content is produced by smart people. You might not like what they write. Lots of people don't. Lots of Christians don't. A huge number of local people who are not Christians don't. But nevertheless, they know what they're doing, and they seem to be doing it very effectively.